Not buying into tactics of fear, my guest Marissa Waraksa is propelled on a profound journey of generational and self-healing with writing and storytelling embedded in its roots. Honor yourself, celebrate your strength, empower your transformation with your Yin Care. This is the Yin Care Podcast, and I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising. When our sensitive tissues are off, everything is off. That's one of the many reasons I absolutely love Yin Care's Herbal Wash. This incredible Taoist formula gently nudges the vaginal microbiome back into balance. Not to mention, it feels amazing. So get your hands on some Yin Care's Herbal Wash today. That's YINCARE.com. Restore, rejuvenate, and refresh with Yin Care. Are you wondering how in the world to detach from the Western medical industrial complex system? Wondering if it is at all possible? Look no further. Marissa shares how she was bullied and berated by the Western medical system as a young woman with threats of inevitable death left looming. I know you'll be inspired by her story. If this show inspires you to make any changes in your life, pause right there. Leave me a 5-star review, like the episode, subscribe to the channel, and even leave us a comment. It takes less than 5 seconds. Then head on over to yincare.com and sign up for the Womb Empowerments. Discover us on Instagram at yin_care or on X, Facebook, and now TikTok, as well as YouTube at Yin Care, YINCARE, to connect with the Yin Care community and learn about everything that's going on. And now, here is the episode for your listening and viewing pleasure. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Yin Care Podcast. I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising. In episode 42, you may recall, we had the first in our Sovereign Health Choice series where I interviewed Patricia Hernandez-Stalder, and we explored her profound experience of interfacing with the medical system, where they recommended a course of action and she chose to follow her own intuition. The Sovereign Health Choice series explores women and potentially men who are willing to share their bold choices where the Western medical industrial complex directed them to receive certain protocols, treatments, or medicines. And these courageous souls chose to listen to their own inner guidance and take a different course of action. Oftentimes, these choices have been in the face of both resistance from the medical professionals who stand steadfast behind their recommendations with threats of death running rampant, or from family and friends who are incredibly uncomfortable with these personalized, intuitive choices. And that goes against a Western medical practitioner or systems advice, right? So our guest today has done just that. Her own health creation journey has influenced her profoundly, both personally and professionally, and I am thrilled to have you hear her story. Marissa Waraksa pursues every medium of expression with a wildness. Her mother put her in a dance class as a child, as she was deemed highly emotional and sensitive. And this became her dependable outlet for emotional alchemy until she was yanked from the city and thrown into a box house in the country and had to learn new ways of processing emotional weight into levity. With a bachelor's in fine arts degree in contemporary dance, vocal music, and sculpture with minors in creative writing and industrial design, Marissa writes books, produces short films, performs characters in films, plays, musicals, and operas, creates found art sculptures from the land where she lives, and has spent much of the past decade as a book doula through her entity Smoke Blood Publishing, of which she is helping me doula a book right now, supporting authors in bringing their books to life through that process. Now, additionally, as a full spectrum light warrior and mother of animals galore, Marissa ushers healing through Soften, a company her womb channeled through meditation in 2020, offering quantum light body activations by assisting her clients in going deep into learning to trust themselves and the world around them by navigating the waters of creation and manifestation through the process of self-trust. I welcome in author of Somewhere Between Shadow and Light, owner and operator of Soften and Smokeblood Publishing, as well as a fellow Wyomingite, Marissa Waraksa. Welcome, Marissa. So great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Margaret. It's an honor to be here.
Yay. I'm so glad we got to make this happen. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. So interestingly, just to give people a background, because it's kind of rare that two Wyomingites would find themselves in similar running circles. If people don't know, Wyoming is like the least populated state, but like the most expansive area. So I think both of us were in one of Z Earth Star's womb containers together. And I don't know, I must have said, we both were saying we were probably in the chat that we were in Wyoming. And I was like, well, we must talk. And what's so interesting too, is that you had book doulaed Danelle Barbara's book, Cervical Wellness, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I had read that.
It's called Informed, Aware, Empowered,
That's right.
Your Guide to Clearing PAPs. Basically, I had worked with her in clearing my own. And so I was able to also support her in bringing that body of work to light, which was, again, an honor.
So cool. Yeah. And it was just so delightful that we got to meet. And then we've been working together over the past year in building the book that I will be bringing forward, that we're, fingers crossed, Margaret has her time organized and she will persevere, folks. You're going to love it, right?
One thing I've learned about books is it's barely about you almost. It's like you're just the vessel and the channel for this creation. And so the more open and willing and available you are to the wildness of that journey, the better, I guess we could say.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, I would love if we could just start with your initial portal into your healing journey. And just if you could incorporate maybe these hard interfaces that you may have experienced with medical systems or practitioners that had different advice or how you should, sort of manage your issues. And then just also include any outsiders' opinions, family and friends, and what they had to say. And just we're just going to weave a lot of story together today. So
amazing. Even before I begin, let me just say that stories, it's such an interesting thing to tell your story, because every time you tell it, you actually learn more about yourself and your journey through these portals of activation. So for me, I was 22 years old. I just went in for my yearly pap smear, just a regular old Wednesday. Maybe it was a Thursday. And I went to this woman in a sort of higher echelon area of Wisconsin, where I was born and raised. She did my pap smear. She called me back like a month later. I sat there, just a little 22-year-old, like dancing, singing, getting her degrees, wanting to be a performer and an artist in the world, make the world a better place. No big deal. And she sits me down and she says, okay, well, we have an abnormal pap smear and this is how it's going to go. And so she drew me a little chart. She said, right now there's sin 1, sin 2, sin 3 for cervical dysplasia. And then after that, it turns into cervical cancer. And so right now you are at sin 3, borderline to cervical cancer. If we do nothing, you will be dead in 10 years. I've had women not come back to me and they are no longer alive. So little 22-year-old me is sitting there like, wait, what do I have? Wait, what are you talking about? Wait, I'm dying? I just got here. Like,
what's so funny is like, I said that in the beginning and I thought to myself, I don't remember when you and I have talked if people were threatening death, but they always find a way to do that.
I mean, let me also just weave in my parents' stories, which I know they're okay with me sharing a tidbit of, but we had the exact same experience. My mother, she was given 3 months, brain tumor, like you operate or you die. No, it's been 11 years. My father, bone cancer, he was given 6 or 9 months. It's been 3.5 years.
Wow.
He's thriving more than he was before. And that is, I guess, the point of illness in the Western medical industrial complex at this time. The point of the trigger, as I've seen it, is it is an initiation to trust yourself. It is a hard and fast one. And it is a like sink or swim, learn to love yourself in the ways you haven't. That is the only positive I see to universally why this is happening, why we've gotten to this drastic point where everybody's getting these death threats. One of the things that has really settled into me as shocking is that some human being could ever tell you when you're going to die.
I know.
Are they prophets? Are they some sort of prophecy? I mean, I'm like a seer, oracle, intuitive, and I would never ever tell someone that I think they're going to die at some moment. Even myself, I often find myself in death portals where I'm like, oh, is this death? Like, no, it's the releasing of old energy. That is illness. Illness is like, hey, look at this body, look at this energy. This energy wants to be alchemized. So you have to release this energy, let it die, quote unquote, in order to make space for the new life, for the person you're becoming, for, the transmutation of being alive. Right. Aliveness is a consistent oscillation of life and death and rebirth. The rebirth is this oscillation of life and death. Anyway, so back to being in that office, she had told me that she wanted to, I can't remember the name of it, but I know Danelle's book goes really deep into what the origin of all the surgeries related to cervical dysplasia or cervical cancer, HPV are. And so they wanted to cut my cervix and I think it's a biopsy, take some of the skin. And they said that it was like a cone thing that they were going to carve out of my cervix that would basically inhibit my ability to have children in the future. Again, 22 years old. And she said, we're going to need you to come back into the office every 3 to 6 months for the rest of your life to manage this disease. Wow. And so that was the moment when she said that. And me, little deer in the headlights, was like, well, I just came in because you asked me to come in. I didn't know you were going to try to take over my body for the rest of time. And I just remember
you were 20, right? You said 22, you were 20, 22. Oh my goodness.
And so I walked from her office into my car, this sacred rage, funneled inside me. And I was just like, what? And then I had this that rage awakened something in my heart space and in my solar plexus. So I didn't know those words even at the time. I was just kind of into witchiness and kind of into, well, how does magic work in the world at that time? Which I think is how a lot of people start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their journey. It's just
100%.
Magic, fantasy books, whatever. But that was that sort of calling of I could feel an initiation of truth of this isn't real. I don't have to answer to this woman. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's seen the world through a lens like this. And even though I didn't have those words at the time, it was now that I reflect back, I can see that I felt and recognized that truth. Wow. Tapped into it and knew in that moment I would never go back to Western medicine again because there was nothing for me there. Because there was nothing for me. How would there have been anything for me if she's telling me she wants to basically take authority over my body and tell me what my life is going to look like and then that I'm going to die if I don't listen to her? Right. That sounds like the highest form of control. And we have words for that in society, but I won't use them. But so that was basically my initiation. And I am grateful to have had the ancestors that I do, because my grandmother, she'd had her uterus taken out and there was no cancer. They just told her there was. Wow. So we had that as a family story. And then I had witnessed my mom go through hers, my dad go through his recently. There's an ancestral and a genetic sort of tug that we're all playing these roles of to in sort of a way awaken the truth of Western medicine for what it is. And it is like a co-optive form of coercion and control. And that's just what it
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that so there's so many threads here that I'm curious about, because you've shared pieces of your story with me before, but we haven't spent dedicated time like this. So I'm super excited to tease out some pieces of that. But did you share with let's just start with, did you share with anybody what happened and what was their response? And then what did you decide to do with that information that you were given at that doctor's office?
I did tell my parents when I got the letter in the mail. I showed them the letter that she had sent me confirming my results. And they were shocked. I mean, I'd like broken an arm. And when I was 7, that's about it. I'd never really been someone who had a lot of health issue. I was pretty balanced and regulated so long as I kept expressing myself creatively, which kind of comes full circle because it's now the way that I've alchemized anything that's ever come through my life as resistance. But my parents were just really shocked. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to respond. And they were mostly like shocked that I'd ever had sex because that's how you get HPV, because I was raised in a sort of Catholic Christian, I went to Catholic Christian grade school and high school. And while there may be value in those sort of religious doctrines, the threads that I do appreciate from that upbringing are the ability to really trust fall into faith with the universe, God, whatever name nomenclature you align with. I can still remember like being in church as a 9-year-old and like feeling my crown chakra opened up. And I didn't know what that was at the time, but I remember feeling like this like cleansing spiritual energy. And that moment has come back to me so many times over the years as like a pillar of, I always have felt this divine connection. Look at that. Like you always felt that, no matter whether were in a church or in a field or microdosing mushrooms by a fireplace, like it doesn't matter. Like you can access that in any time, space. It's not restricted to religious doctrine. So they were mostly concerned about that, but I didn't really tell anyone else because there was also a lot of my journey has been clearing the shame wound that I inherited, that Christianity and Catholicism really perpetuates the shame wound, shame of having sex, shame of this, shame of being alive, shame of being sick, a big one, shame of being sick. What?
I know, right? So explain that, because that's so interesting. At first I was like, well, what shame wound? Because there could be so many, right?
Yeah.
But I could definitely see that you would have the shame of having sex, and then the shame of being sick is a big one. Can you share with me how that worked for you?
Yes. I think it's a fear of weakness, a fear of being perceived as, the alteration of one's reputation, the alteration of if other people see me as weak, then I see myself as weak. So it's also not being sovereign, not really owning your story, but outsourcing your story, your authority, your self-approval, your self-worth to others, which was a lot of what I was living with at that time. That's basically the shame.
So when the thing that's interesting in this too is that when we have shame wounds, it can often be really challenging to begin to trust ourselves. And so I'm wondering how you made a leap to trusting your own intuitive guidance to take the next steps, whatever they were. And then if you could share with us what your sort of next steps were to do something or not do something about this.
Right. Oh, yeah. So basically with the self-trust aspect, I was so privileged to grow up with the mother that I did. She would train me in mind dynamics, which was a big thing in like the 70s and 60s, 80s, somewhere in that area. She trained in it. when she was young. So I'd be like 10 years old and she'd be like, okay, close your eyes. I'd be in the back seat of the car while we were driving errands. And she would be like, okay, now what number do you see? Do you see a color? Do you see this? Do you see that? And so like, I was always very encouraged to be in touch with my intuition because of my mother's own interest and experimentation with that along her path. So there was this one person she worked with. She's a metalsmith and jewelry designer. As well as a painter and an artist. My dad is a musician. His father is a musician. So we have the music and the art really rich in my blood. Yes. Yeah. So the creative alchemy of emotions is like very, very deeply in my blood as purpose. But there was someone she worked with and my intuition said like, Mom, don't talk to that man. And like, I would say this and I would like cower behind her when she worked with him. And I just felt this like, get us both away from this person. And it turned out like years and years later, he was like essaying his stepdaughter and was arrested and put in jail for it.
He was like, what?
Essaying, assaulting. Yeah. I'm just trying to like be PC about the, the label of it for social media purposes. But
got it. Yeah.
He was assaulting his stepdaughter.
Got it. I get it.
In an intimate way.
Yeah.
And it was like in the paper. And so like that, along with, there was a story of me in high school. I like felt this deep sadness and I called my mom. I was like, I feel like I want to die. I need to come home. And it turned out that the kid I was sitting next to in French class had just tried to commit suicide.
Wow.
And so like I had a lot of, because I was so open.
Yeah.
I had all these experiences in my life of this sort of intuitive knowing that gave me credence, that gave me a lot of that trust. Yeah. When I felt that sacred rage speak through me in the doctor's office that day. So I did have a lot of seeds that had been planted, as well as the fact that my mother and my mother's mother were naturopaths. We're very into essential oils and herbs. So when I was diagnosed, I immediately signed up at Chestnut Herbs Medicine School. So for like an herbalism course, I dived more deeply into that. I worked with some people in essential oil worlds to, I was basically taking a syringe of Melissa oil and sticking it up my vagina, which was now I know it was too much for my body. It actually gave me, and then I was like drinking frankincense oil by the tablespoon with honey.
Wow.
And it made me very sick doing that because it was not balanced and it was not intuitively led. It was just the same as the Western medicine approach of like force stuff on the body.
This is such good medicine you bring to the table, because that is a very normal thing that people will do, is to you find out one good thing and not really understanding the full breadth of the application of it and how it affects the body is challenging. And then there's that dynamic of, well, how do I learn to take care of myself using my own intuition? And where is the line where I do seek out a practitioner in these other systems of medicine that are available for guidance should I feel like I need it? You know what I mean? Yes. But not that we have to go into that so much, but I just think it's really important to just put that into the space that's a real thing and that's really normal. Yeah,
it is. It's also because that approach is so ingrained into us through this Western medicine takeover, which of course people can look to your book for a lot of the history and insight into where we and why we are where we are in the current infrastructure. But basically, it translated, and I knew it. It's like I knew it intuitively that what I was doing was not right for me, but I was still afraid and I was still ashamed, and I was just trying to survive. Basically, because I didn't know what was going to happen. Come to find out years later, like the whole root of it is fear. The whole root of the cervical dysplasia, borderline cervical cancer thing was fear. The shame, the fear, the not having boundaries around intimacy with self and others. So I was also a people pleaser for much of my life. So it was like healing a lot of those things, but we'll get into that. But like all of those things were still in action when I was trying to like funnel stuff into my body at that time when I was first diagnosed. So I was also the lead in a musical in college at that time. I was Lola in Damn Yankees at UWM, Milwaukee.
Oh, cool.
But I was in between rehearsals when I went home and I was like shoving oils in both directions. And so I got bronchitis, and it made it almost impossible for me to sing and finish up that performance, along with performative trauma, which really comes into my creative path that is so tied with my healing alchemical journey. I had a dance professor. I remember my friend Zach was standing next to me in rehearsal, and the dance professor walked up to me and she said, "Now make sure you don't gain any weight during these rehearsals because you have to fit into your costumes." And Zach looked at me like, "Did she really just say that to you?" And I was like, "I think so. I'm blacking out over here. Did she really just say that to me?" And that really, that really made me feel like, oh shit, what can I trust in this world? I can't trust like the elders in the arts to like show and set a good example. I can't trust the medical practitioners to teach me what health really is. I'm just like alone out here in the abyss of the unknown. What am I supposed to tether to?
And that's what we're all doing, is floating around, finding a way to come back home. Back home to, like you said so eloquently, to drop into that space of faith, into trusting that there is something that you can tether to, that can stabilize you. And and so anchoring yourself in ways that showing yourself, for me, I always like to say like that self-trust is like a muscle that we build, I think you've probably heard me say that before. So finding ways in which we're teaching ourselves that we are dependable, that we are showing up. And so I think in many ways, even though you were taking something that wasn't the correct remedy, and you were taking something, you were making a step forward to, there's probably a part of you that knew that you were making an effort. You were showing up to take it every night, even though it wasn't the right thing. There was some level that was getting through. So did it end up that you had to, that was there any work to be done, or did it end up just being, like you said, just that you were working with fear? And how did you figure that piece out? And it sounds like you never went back to the Western medical system, so you just assumed that you just kept living and things were good?
Yeah, I mean, I've had all sorts of different illnesses in different ways and aspects since then. I mean, starting with the spiral out of depression and anxiety. So from mental to physical to spiritual illness to mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. I've had a lot of explorations and touch points with all of these different types. And really every single one has been a teacher leading me back to myself, leading me back to trusting myself, trusting my intuition, trusting that everything is an opportunity to know myself more deeply, to learn how to trust myself as simply a reflection of life itself more deeply.
Absolutely. And so this really leads into the kind of prompt that we were discussing of really that illness is a form of initiation. And and then also we wanted to bring in how you go about utilizing emotional expression to alchemize illness, and whether it's mental or physical, etc. So maybe you could kind of talk, I know those are kind of slightly separate, but they do weave together, if you want to just respond.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ways that I've healed my cervix has been actually through sex. I lovingly have a very wonderful partner who has been on this journey with me. And Danelle talks a lot about de-armoring the cervix. So basically, like when you have a broken arm, touching it hurts, but the way to heal it is to touch it and, to tap in with that pain and lovingly hold that pain so it can slowly release, let off, / alchemize back into love. It's fear asking for love. It's a child asking for compassion, asking for presence. Any wound is that way: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. And so with the cervix, a lot of it was like allowing myself to within myself during the bliss moments of orgasm, being like, okay, how can I open myself? Oh my God, I feel fear there. Oh, I feel resistance to wanting to be open for my partner there and there. And oh, that's a new place that I haven't opened myself up. So it was like all of this opportunity to expand into those places that had been shut down due to shame, due to sexual shame, due to like the Catholic religious upbringing shame, to peer rejection. I mean, all sorts of things live inside this reproductive system as metaphor for where they live in your brain, where they live in your heart, where they live on your skin, and in the wounds that you physically experience. I mean, you can tap into a wound in a multidimensional way from any angle.
Absolutely.
And so that was one of the best, most amazing ways to heal, was just like de-armoring through a sexual intimate practice. And also with myself, with self-pleasure, my form of self-pleasure was very rooted in shame as a kid, you know, with the religious upbringing. And
I mean, I think it's so normal. All of this is so normal for the majority of us. Anyway, just want to say that. Go ahead.
No, please. Yes, absolutely. And so de-armoring that same self-pleasuring shame, like, and all of that opened me up to recognize that, oh, life is about enjoying myself. Like, I can simply trust myself and live in bliss. Wait, I just have to grant myself permission to do that. And the bliss I receive in return for opening, for granting myself the permission, giving myself the permission slip to lean into what feels good by allowing what feels bad to express itself. That's healing. That's alchemy. That's like aliveness.
Absolutely. Okay. So this is the question that's a little, I want to know if you know much about your own, because we're tying in different systems of shame. And you and I talk a lot about like orchestrated systemic structures.
Yes.
So in my book, we're working on, the medical system, governmental system, and we even touched a tiny bit on finances, a bit. But being that I feel that the control of the womb, the control of our birthright to bliss is inflicted with pain at the very get-go, in the sense that it's not necessarily your womb, but possibly your mother's womb. I'm wondering what your birth experience, I mean, I'm not saying this happened to you.
Yeah.
But maybe it did. And I would like to know, what was your birth experience like?
Yes. My mother had trauma with my oldest brother where she hemorrhaged. The doctor didn't show up. He was on vacation. But with me, by the time I was the third birth that she experienced. And so by me, she had gotten really into self-healing, and she was drinking barley green every day. She was drinking raspberry leaf tea, like for the last trimester. So I flew right out the door. She got up on the counter in the kitchen and screamed because she saw a mouse. So my dad runs down the stairs in his underwear and he's like, "Oh no, are you giving birth?" She's like, "No, there's a mouse." And he's like, so like, oh my God. But then her water dropped, and then I came out, an hour after they got to the hospital.
So you were born in a hospital, not at home. Okay. That's okay. I'm just curious. I mean, there's no good or bad here.
No,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that was it. That's my birth story. I always felt like I made it real easy because I'm a soul that has spiraled in and out of realities since I've been, a kind of like a master soul at that, we could say.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what alchemy and creative expression and healing is. And especially so birth. Now I have been pregnant once, but I wasn't able to deliver. And so I had to make the impossible choice to not keep the pregnancy, for many reasons. I have so many drafts of this story that I have not yet posted to my Substack because I'm just like, man, there's so many layers to it. But basically it was the anxiety, the depression, the cervical cancer, the morning after pill that I took because we knew that like, whoops, whoops.
Yeah, right.
Oh, so I took it.
Right.
And then I went to get checked out and they said that it was already separating from the wall. So it wasn't like a very potentially successful pregnancy. So all of that, and still I felt so ashamed of myself, right? For deciding not to continue that pregnancy. So much the shame wound with that. But it was very complex on a multidimensional scale.
For sure.
It's like I was designed to have that experience, to open up the womb and release all that shame. And that soul, many souls want to just come and touch point the reality. They don't want to have a whole full long life. They just want to like, oh, let me experience this death portal. And so the morning I was meant to give birth, my due date would have been Mother's Day, funny enough.
Wow.
And a kitten was like abandoned out of its mother's womb on the porch
that way.
Day. And so my partner's mom comes in with a kitten, and then like I'm like, oh shit, I'm feeding and taking care of this thing that can't take care of itself and wiping its little ball. So it's like I was mothering anyway. And it was like something deep inside me told me that was connected. That was like synchronistically, synchronistically the same soul imprint. Like when I held that kitten, I was like, oh, this is the baby. This is the soul. So even if it's not exactly the soul, it was the same imprint. There was this motherly recognition with that. And so then we got 8 more kittens. So we had like 9 cats, 9 lives. And so there's this really interesting thing where that initiated me into this mothering phase of my life. But instead of it being a human child, it was like, no, we're going to have to train and release so much through, I think it's been like 60 cats now, 2 dogs, horse friends outside, the cows that I sing to, it's just like consistently this opening up and this blossoming of what motherhood is. So bringing it back to my birth story, it felt very connected. Like my birth was easy, but for my mother, which I'm grateful to have made it easy on her.
For sure.
My first birth experience was nothing but a portal of initiation again. And again, regarding the womb, the cervix, this blossoming, this opening, this releasing of all of the things that deep in my heart, I knew my genetic line could not carry on any further.
Right.
Which brings us to ancestral genetic healing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because it's like, I am not meant to have a baby until all of this karma, all of this energetic debris, we could call it all sorts of things, is completely cleared from my womb space, from the cosmic, epicenter that connects into the entire galaxy itself.
Exactly. 100%. And so I guess my point in bringing up the whole connection to a hospital is that a hospital is a trauma imprint, a place of trauma imprint for women. And so, I mean, this is your story, not mine, but I often see, even if a birth, like even with myself, I feel like the hardest part of my own personal birth was my separation from the placenta. That it was done in a way that was so disrespectful and so dishonoring. It was like earth shattering for me in that moment. It's not that I wasn't put into loving arms. But there's that imprint of them taking the baby and not, I was born in 1971, and so there's no way they just they probably handed me to my mom, because I know there's pictures of me with vernix all over me, but they, quickly scooped me over to weigh me and everything like that. And I no doubt spent time in a, not right next to her skin the whole time, et cetera. So there's just like structures within that system that leave even just like basic levels of trauma, like around a mother not trusting a mother and teaching a mother that she can't trust herself to care for the baby, that the baby must be monitored, that they know better than she does, and that they need to, weigh the baby and take the baby's temperature and all this, this invasive stuff that's happening if you're staying there for any length of time, which of course at that time they usually did. You would stay for a few nights to a week or, extra days. I know my mom did stay there longer because I think I was told that the heater in the house hadn't been working and that they were trying to get that working before they brought me home because I was born in the winter. But, you know, anyway, that trauma imprint and that level, I feel like that is on an earth plane, on the 3-dimensional level, I feel like that is one of the most fundamental control traumas that's inflicted on women, you know, in other circles of spiritual or even, what do you call it? New age kind of areas where they're talking about, well, I even talked about this, I think, with Indigo Angel when I did the interview with her, but the control, like the forced breeding programs that people will say, I think that like there's this really weird disconnect that we have in our society where this actually is a forced breeding program. If you think about the hospital births, everything about it is controlled, especially nowadays. It's so hyper controlled. There's so much more, you know, it was worse. It was bad even before. And some people slip through the cracks a little bit and they have an easier time and less trauma than others. We'll definitely grant that. Because like I said, I don't think I had massive trauma, but it was still like there's an imprint that's overlaid and it's purposeful. It's just consistently purposeful. It's consistently purposeful that like you decide to make love with someone or just have a sexual experience of exploration in your young 20s. And then your first major touchstone with the medical system is, well, you're never going to be pregnant again and you're going to die. Like you, my friend, clearly cannot trust your womb. And you are not to be trusted with one of those, by the way. And so dismantling these layers like you're talking about are so hugely important, because what they don't want us to know, like, and I'm sorry if this sounds like there's like some level of conspiracy theory, like that's like, but it truly is. It's too weird. I'm sorry, I'm going on and on and on. You got me going off here, but it's too weird. It's like a cult, you know, it's like a cult following of it within the birth arena. Like everybody's willing to say that, defend the birth system because, well, what if the baby dies or what if this? Okay, so it's okay to inflict all of this trauma that completely ruins a woman's connection and her empowerment to become a mother and feel this deep level of soul fulfillment with your womb. We're willing to sacrifice all of that, like, and it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, okay, your turn.
P.S. Let's put her on her back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All of it.
Oh,
sorry.
And P.S. let's like yank it out of her. Let's push till she hemorrhages. Push. Just like in life, push. Make yourself feel successful, achieve things, have the family, get the house, do the. Oh, P.S. We're going to make it as difficult as possible.
And the irony is that the womb itself, when you are in touch with it, everything is so easy for everyone around you.
Yeah.
Like you're not just working your womb space and your intuition and deepening your connection with the tissues and the energies that are deeply embedded in there, the structures that like we don't even fully understand the capacity of, because heaven forbid we learn that. Mm-hmm. But once you start to get, you realize how it is truly serving everyone in the family, everyone in the community, when there's a free flow of this love and this bliss and this, you know, so it's beautiful that you brought in sexual healing. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah. And, you know, you're reminding me of the book that I'm writing right now. Chugwater in Wyoming. It's a fictional story, but it's my attempt to take a psychological thriller and turn it into something healing for the collective, which is so random. It's like, you know, writing a book is so random in itself because you're like, what am I doing? I'm having like nightmares about someone else's story as though it's my own. And it is. These are human artifacts, as my partner often says. You know, he's a filmmaker and he often talks about how storytelling is human artifacts. So even if it's not my story, it is my story. It's the character carrying these stories. And so there is a whole thing with the two mothers that are a big part of the story giving birth themselves on their own by the creek in Chowar.
Wow.
That you just
Fantastic.
brought back to the surface. Yeah. I'm really excited to see how the things that I've personally experienced weave themselves into story through these other characters that are invented, but actually so real. They're like my friends that are living in my psyche, which can bring us to the power of story and healing and the power of speaking. You know, even right now, my jaw is like releasing all this energy because every time we tell our story, it's a new way. It's a new energetic, alchemy of expression.
Yeah, I love that. And you were talking about one of the things, just to weave this in, one of the offerings that you are putting forward is to help people through writing their own memoir, process their story. You want to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The stories that have come to me since I opened Smoke Blood in 2018 have all related to healing. It's so interesting. One is a young adult novel about a man who lost his brother to suicide because his brother had a mental illness. And he took his real life story, turned it into a fictionalized version of itself for young adults, because he was a young adult when he watched his brother go through this. And it like gave me chills when I read it. I was like, I have to publish your book. We have to get it out there. And even Danelle's book, obviously very focused in healing, but every single story that comes to me, it's like, wow, this is a story of healing. This is a story of alchemy. And so whether you write your story through poetry, through fiction, through a non-fictional memoir, it really doesn't even matter, because you're expressing the story, you're telling the story. The stories that we used to tell around the fire are now printed and bound and shipped. But it's the same art, the same act of community connection, of helping ourselves to heal and helping one another to heal, and not even heal, because there's nothing wrong. There's nothing to fix. There's no cure necessary. What it really is: expansion, alchemy, aliveness, truth, and harmony with all of life itself. That is the truth of storytelling. It is all of those themes. So when we transmit through our voice, I mean, we have the tissues in our throat around our larynx are the same tissues that are in the cervix.
Exactly.
So it's like the voice speaks in both directions. And I always find that so powerful and profound. So what I do with anyone who comes to me wanting to write a story or publish a story, a lot of them have also turned away from the mainstream publishing industry because it functions in such a way as it does tend to take advantage through contract law. Sometimes it shelves a story and then the story is never told, which is like persecution. So a lot of people experience touchstone with these horror stories that I wanted to create like a very safe space for people to tell their stories, to be as honest as possible, because it really is a brave thing to tell your story in whatever form, and then to be able to share it the way they want, to not have their creative control sort of co-opted by some sort of agenda. And I actually have my poetry collection I grabbed off the shelf.
Cool.
But this
what does it say? What is it?
Somewhere between shadow and light.
Oh, that is. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
It's just backwards. But that, I actually put 10 years of poetry together while microdosing mushrooms for 2 weeks, because I was so anxious and depressed, and I could feel like my ancestors' struggles with this. It's like they never got to walk fully through that portal. They never got to finish and complete, because that's what any trauma or any dysregulation or any dis-ease really is. It's seeking completion. It's seeking that light of love to be like, oh, look at that. We like moved, we alchemized, we learned, we grew, we expanded. That's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And this was the first book that I put together and published, was my own.
So cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And on the other side of that portal, I was less anxious and depressed, and I had something to share with the world.
I love that. And I love that you brought in microdosing, and you mentioned it at some point before, and we didn't really hit on that, but I am a big fan of microdosing. I microdose like once a week, usually on a Saturday. And it's just my day to recalibrate, to reconnect, reconfigure, just really see what, to me, it drops me into a space where I know what really is real and what isn't. And I don't, it keeps me so that I'm not out of touch and spiraling into what could be the insanity of running multiple businesses, et cetera, like that. Yeah. It just grounds me back in and honestly brings me back deep into the womb space of just knowing what's really important for all of the things that I support around me. But I'm assuming based on what you said, you used it for moving through this anxiety phase that you were experiencing, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And did you do that like mostly they say like every other day or every third day, or how did you work with it?
I did it intuitively.
Cool.
Don't follow anyone else's advice. Follow your own, trust. Yeah. That's part of the process of self-trust. It is one of my oldest brother's favorite sayings is that, jump off of a cliff and you find there's a featherweight bed waiting at the bottom. Like that is self-trust. It's like every single time that when you first start out, like the way I first started out with self-trust is learning my yes and my no. My body's yes and no, not my mind's, not my emotions. My emotions can be very, very loud. My thoughts can be very loud, but my body can speak through that with truth. Mm-hmm. It's not as loud. So for me, that was muscle testing. And that was me sitting in a bath for hours and being like, what does yes feel like? And I felt like after a while, it was like, I didn't feel anything. But then I started to notice every time I asked, I felt this like blissful tingling up my vagus nerve, up my chest, up my thymus gland, And then what does no feel like? And it was like this hard stiffening. And I was like, oh, cool. Like this is a magic tool for my magical tool belt now. Like, oh. And I also do this one a lot. Like, what is my yes? Mm-hmm. What is my no? And, these are such simple tools.
I'm a big pendulum gal.
Yeah.
It's, and I mean, I'm just playing with it right now, but I keep it out frequently because it's just something that's easy for me,
Absolutely. I mean, what are the metaphysical tools, but reminders, of what we can always access and know inside ourselves. It's like
I hold it and I hear it as it's coming in anyway, but it's like become my method,
It's confirmation too.
Yeah.
Which is really important when you're on the path of self-trust. I mean, trusting truth is elusive because there's so many ways we've been guided and taught to lie to ourselves to perform. And being someone who's been in the performance fields and then being like accidentally becoming like a people pleaser performer and then be like, okay, wait, where is like truth in this though? Because like, it doesn't feel good when I'm like not my authentic self for other people's benefit. So boundaries, putting self first, giving self permission to be like, oh, what feels good for me in this moment, not everybody else or the collective sphere. When I'm my most authentic, truthful, honest self, trusting self.
Totally.
Then I give that permission to everybody else in the room. That's the real power. That's like setting the tone of the room you're in instead of adjusting to it to be safe.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I love that. And so this whole conversation about the yes and the no and the embodied practice really leads into your business of Soften. So why don't you share with us your story of how that was activated as a womb channeling and what that is, what was that?
Quantum light body activation.
I got the light. Okay. Quantum light body activation would be, I've experienced it, pieces of it. I don't know, maybe if it's more robust than what I've experienced because Marissa and I have worked together in that way. She's shown me what she does and it's beautiful and amazing. And I can't recommend it enough if you're really looking to get into your body. She's very highly skilled in that capacity. But why don't you share with everybody your journey on how you brought that forward? I love moving through the day, honoring all of who I am as a woman. That can be a challenge when imbalances such as damp heat, or toxic heat rear their ugly head vaginally, and issues such as yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, and even HPV creep in. When our sensitive tissues are off, everything is off. All the tools I may have in my repertoire to ground and center go out the window, and I feel myself coming slightly unglued, to say the least. Everything is so incredibly uncomfortable. But I was tired of finding product after product that completely obliterated all of a woman's microbiome, and honestly was worried for all the other strange but natural culinary items microbiomes I was testing out inside my vaginal cavity. It seemed wrong to kill all the bacteria off and then work to build a healthy vaginal microbiome back up again. That's one of the many reasons I absolutely love Yin Care's herbal wash. Research at the universities in China showed at the petri dish level that at a 10 to 12% dilution, Yin Care's herbal wash would lyse all yeast cells and other bacteria while still allowing lactobacilli to continue to proliferate. This incredible Taoist formula gently nudges the vaginal microbiome back into balance. Not to mention, it feels amazing. Its cooling properties not only cool the very upset sensitive tissues, but cools my head and allows me to come back into my body and ground into my life and purpose once again. If you've never used our wash and you plan to use it vaginally, be sure you purchase the combo pack that includes both the 180 ml bottle of Yin Care's herbal wash and the 100 ml vaginal applicator. We now sell the bottle in two sizes, 100 ml and 180 ml bottles. So head on over to yincare.com. That's yincare.com. And by the way, Yin Care's herbal wash feels excellent after some rather hot and heavy lovemaking, or even at a less sexier time, but incredibly important postpartum. Yin Care's herbal wash is excellent for postpartum care to cool things off while also offering antimicrobial and antibacterial properties. So get your hands on some Yin Care's herbal wash today. Restore, rejuvenate, and refresh with Yin Care.
Absolutely. I'll back up just a touch because after the essential oil from both directions and herbalism training, which is so useful, and I love Chestnut Herbal Medicine School. Like I adore them. And Asia Solar, who used to work with them, or maybe still does, she actually was the bridge for me into alternate forms of healing and writing as healing. She's an absolutely gorgeous writer. And she is, whether she calls herself it or not, she's a multidimensional energy healer. I kind of like started following her, subscribed to her email, and then was like, oh, she's doing energy work and all this other stuff. And then my sister-in-law's friend was practicing shamanism. So I started to have a couple sessions and I was like, wow, these visions I'm having. And the practitioner was having the same visions as me. So I was like, oh, there's truth in what I see in my mind's eye. There's all this other ways of healing that doesn't require anything, no supplements, no intervention or invasion of any kind on the body. Right. And so that started me down the path of basically every energy tool out there, EFT, the emotion code with the magnets, the shamanism. I made my own drum with a buffalo hide. I started going to different community meetups with shamanism, meditations, worked into meeting Z, all of the different aspects of the unknown, of the perception of self through just the third eye, just the crown chakra, just the body as the vehicle for healing alone by itself. And so then I was in a guided womb meditation in 2020 and I had my hands on my womb and I got this phrase that wouldn't stop chattering in my body. And it's hard to describe what it feels like when you have your body speaking until you get to know that for yourself. But it's it speaks in its own language, but it translates it to English. And so I just kept feeling, soften into your authentic self, soften into your authentic self, soften into your authentic self. So I winked my eye open to write, soften into your authentic self. And I went back into the meditation and it quieted. I was like, okay, I needed to write that down. That was important. And then slowly just started wanting to be oh, maybe when I talk to people, I can bring up energy healing. Oh, maybe I can remind people that they're their own best healer. Oh, maybe I can help other people to find this sort of empowered self thing that I feel on this path. And so eventually that built. And then 2022 is when I really connected that womb meditation, the soften into your authentic self. And oh, that's what I want to gift humanity. That's the key code. And more than it just being a business, it's a mission that I self-chose, my ancestors rooted for me in doing. And what a quantum light body restoration or activation session is. Basically, I hop into someone else's light body And I guide them in listening to the signs and the symbols and the representations. I guide them in knowing themselves more deeply. I guide them in learning how to utilize love and peace and harmony as the medicine for the pain, the fear, the guilt, the shame, and where it's been living and how it's been kicking up dust that we call symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, let me show people too. Let me put these up for everybody. This is where you can book the appointment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just to be sure everybody knows, it is soften.setmore. If you're just listening to this, SETMORE.com. That's soften, SOFTEN.setmore, SETMORE.com. And let's see if I can actually, hang on. I want to show everybody.
Let me share while you do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do offer a free 20-minute intro session. And as well, I really want everything to be accessible because poverty has been a huge initiation for me as well. So if anyone can't afford a session in any way, shape, or form, let's play with trades, community trades. Let's see what abundance you do have. You know, that's something I really learned is sometimes you just have an abundance of things you don't see as having true value, but they do. And so getting out of this sort of forced economic system where money is the god and king of all and only value of currency, really, we all hold and possess so many forms of currency to exchange with. And you can find me in all these other places that you
this is great. This is the other, I should say, should put that one up. This is a way to contact her, and it's beacons.ai/soften. And so she's got here all of her different connections. And right on that page there too, if you click through the second one down, it says book your appointment. And that will take you right to that soften.setmore.com. And so is there a spot here you had said you would do, like you said?
Second from the bottom, quantum activation.
The quantum activation. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's where they would book that session. Yep. Great. Awesome. And then also wanted to just share with everybody, I'll leave that up for a second. Marissa also has a few different social media places. I think you've got 2 on Instagram. It's at _Marissa, MARISSA _Rose, ROSE _. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the second one is at _soften, SOFTEN _, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Perfect. And then you're also pretty visible on TikTok, and that's at soften into you. I think everybody knows SOFTENINTOYOU. And then we've also got your Substack as well. Marissa is, as you can tell, a writer. And so if you want to find out more about what her writing site, you can find her over on Substack at Marissa. And tell me I'm saying your last name correctly. Am I not saying?
You are Waraksa.
Okay, cool. Waraksa. Awesome. It's at MARISSA WARAKSA. Marissa Waraksa. And that's the Substack. And there we go. Awesome. What did I forget? Is there anything else that you feel like we should speak to, or anything else you want to say about your business?
I would say my Substack is like a place for me to play with pieces of my storytelling that will eventually build into a sort of memoir essay book thing. So the book will have the same name as the Substack has right now, which is Healing is an Art Form. And I feel like that really is the apex of what I'm here to transmit to humanity, is healing yourself through self-expression, through creative permission. And I feel complete. I love that.
Okay, cool. And so let's leave everybody, just to put you totally on the spot, but is there one thing that you would recommend that they could do to that would guide them into their own intuition and self-expression. That's, I mean, these things that we can play with are free, right? So what's one fun thing that you love doing or that you think everyone could benefit from?
Honestly, if you don't know your body's yes and no, go take a bath or go in the shower or go somewhere quiet or go into nature. Ask yourself, ask your body what it feels like, what pleasure feels like, what pain feels like, because then you at least have the codex to move forward with. Then you have the primary tool for trusting yourself, for trusting that your intuition is always speaking through you, and that it's actually the freest, most accessible tool you could ever have.
I love that. That is perfect. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Marissa. Let me just take this one thing. It's so good. I'm so glad we finally got to do this. It's been fantastic.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, and I also wanted to show the 2 books that I utilize in metaphysical self-healing.
Cool.
So the first one is called Metaphysical Anatomy by Yvette Rose.
I love that one.
It's such a tome, and she goes over the energetic roots of any physical symptoms, also mental, emotional. And this one has been my favorite recently, the Encyclopedia of Ailments and Diseases. Oh. Basically, Jacques Martel and a couple of assistants to create this book, they have created an affirmation-based way of slowly reading what they wrote to unpack the wound and then affirm the healing.
Oh, wow.
It's gold.
Cool.
It's gold.
Awesome. Can you put that up one more time? Because Ailments and Diseases, the Encyclopedia of Ailments and Diseases. And who's the author? Sorry, I have to.
Jacques Martel.
Okay, cool. Martel. Is that right?
Martel.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. Yes.
And just keep us in touch with your journey as you go forward. And if you have anything else that comes up that you feel like we need to jump on for, we'll get you back in. Lovely. And everyone, I'd love to also at some point when we get the resources page and the services page set up, we can highlight Marissa's offering so that there's an easy way to remember where to go. But we'll have all of her information will be listed in the show notes and in the details under the videos that are available. So thank you again, Marissa. So grateful, and have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much for listening. Having Marissa share her story was so powerful. I love how she clearly described her feeling as a young woman floating around in the abyss of non-helpful adults and looking for a way to come back home. Obviously, she finds her way back home, and she has stepped continually back into her intuition and uses her body as a guiding light. I hope that you will follow Marissa on her social media channels. Be sure to check the links out in the show notes to complete our medical incident report form, as well as the sovereign health choice report form. We want to know either what happened to you in the Western medical industrial system or how powerfully you stepped out of it. I'm on a mission to help you remember and reignite your own intuition through your womb wisdom so that you are ready, willing, and able to step fully and completely into your sovereign health creation journey. Shows launch every 2 weeks wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget to head on over to yincare.com and click on signing up for our womb empowerments, as well as check out our womb wisdom store, upcoming courses and services that I offer. And of course, you can find us on Instagram at yin_care and on X, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at Yin Care, all one word. I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, and this has been the Yin Care Podcast. Until next time, honor yourself, celebrate your strength, and empower your transformation with your Yin Care.